to a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher.
Welcome back to another episode of the Afterburners podcast. I am your host, Mr. Sam Niedermeyer. With me, as always, is Mr. Bobby Koch. Notice how I did not say Bobby Koch today. How you doing today, Bobby?
Appreciating that you didn't say my name wrong. I'm having a rough football day. I know we're going to get into it a bit. I'm a Giants fan. I found out that I may not make playoffs that I thought I was a lock to make. So not my favorite time to talk football, but I'm here. The show must go on. I'm drinking beers to drown out my misery, and I'm joined by good company, so I guess it'll be okay.
Rough day for Bobby. Mike, you were sick last week, as was I. How are you feeling? Better? Are you feeling better up in the country up north up there? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm feeling great now. Contrary to popular belief, you and I were not making out. That's not what got us.
We haven't confirmed that yet. That's still under investigation.
I'm going to let the rumors swirl a little bit longer. I know we didn't make out, Mike, and I'm pretty sure that you and I will never make out. I don't know. There's still a 1% chance that says we don't.
Yeah, you can never say never to anything.
Let's not rule anything out, right?
Exactly. No, I'm feeling good. The voice is back. I'm also drinking a beer and joined with good company, so it's a fantastic night.
What's your drink of choice tonight, my friend?
We're keeping it classy. We're going with the 710 milliliter of Old Milwaukee.
Old Milwaukee. I like that. That sounds good. We're going with Bobby's got some Shinerbach. I got some Heineken right here. Fans, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you'll see that I have a mustache that looks very gross. I have to tell you, I was walking around I shaved this recently, walking on the subway today, walking around New York, and I got a lot of dirty looks. I'm not going to lie. I look like a complete pedophile, and for that, I will not apologize. Instead, I will shamelessly walk back to my apartment every night with people staring at me. But as Bobby just said, the show must go on. We got a great show for it. By the way, I forgot. Last week, Mike, you mentioned it. You and I were both out. Christian did a really good job for us last week. We got to give a nice round of applause to our friend Christian, everyone.
Christian is great. I was going to touch on that in a bit, but yeah. He came in when both you and I were down and stepped right in and did a hell of a job. Big ups to
That was 3 or 4 days after having a baby in his house for the first time, too.
He had a baby. It was on very short notice, too. Christian, phenomenal job. Thank you again. Guys, you want to follow him. His handle on Twitter is at LSCDemon10. So he's in our league. He did a great job on short notice and with the baby. Boys.
And one other thing to add there, and I always mispronounce his baby's name, I think, but Silas was in a Saints jersey this past Sunday, already rooting for his Saints, scoring some touchdowns for them. I guess he's a lucky baby because it seems like the Saints are on their way to at least a playoff run.
Yeah, but they lost with the baby.
Yeah, but we lost. So
well,
might have to not wait.
Are we going to start this conversation in which the baby has to go back in the womb?
Let's get started today, guys.
Let's say no joke.
Guys, we got a great show for you today, and it doesn't have to do with babies or wombs. Anyways, we're got a couple big returns we're going to talk about. Not you and I, Mike, but a couple big players that are coming back. Well, maybe not big players. One big player and one big player getting benched. Josh Gordon, Eli Manning, big news going on there. Samaje Perine also. Is he a QB2? And, of course, an RB2. And, of course, as always, we got our Afterbirds of the Week. Mike, tell the people where they can find you. Bobby, you're up next, and we're going to get rolling.
For my 3 dedicated followers, you guys can find me on Twitter at Mike Jarvis. It's all one word. And, Bobby, over to you.
Yeah, you can find me at Wrecked Fantasy. You can find my writing and my rankings at dynastyleaguefootball.com. And if you enjoy trivia or random fun facts, definitely follow my Twitter account because it's something I do pretty regularly.
Yeah, that's at Wreck Fantasy. He does a great job, guys. This is obviously the Afterburners podcast. You can find us at Afterburners Pod on Twitter. We're on YouTube now. You can follow us. It's the Afterburners Pod. We're also going to be firing up our Instagram account again at _Afterburners. Email us, theafterburnerspod@gmail.com. And finally, we are on iTunes for the Afterburners. That's right. The link is in our bio on Instagram and our bio on Twitter. Boys, big news today. Eli Manning's consecutive starting streak is coming to an end. And Bobby, you love trivia. Who's replacing him? Is this just answer this trivia question? Who is replacing Eli Manning?
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith will be starting. So, Mike, we could talk for days about this, and Bobby has been going through absolute hell as the big Giants fan that he is. But I'm going to flip it onto a little fantasy broadcast here, because that's what we do. Where does it leave Evan Engram and his owners?
As an Evan Engram owner, I'm panicking. I'm definitely not starting him this week because I want to see how Geno Smith targets his receivers and tight ends. And I just don't have any faith in Geno Smith. So I think for the rest of the year, I don't think Engram will be much of an asset. In Dynasty, I still think he's a top Dynasty tight end because he's just a freak of nature. I tried to acquire him today in a best ball league, and I'd still pay a high draft capital to get him if I was looking to get him in a trade. So I do believe that this is a sign that the Giants are definitely drafting a quarterback in the draft next year. A young one who can probably sling the rock and get it to Ingram's hands and make some plays.
Yeah, Bobby. I mean, Mike hit it right on the head, man. They've been playing for next year for a while and the years after that, but they're definitely going to draft a quarterback after that. Are you at least giving us a little bit more positive upside for Evan Engram?
Well, first, I want to play a video. I'm hoping the sound effects are what I'm looking for. And while I give that some time to load here.
Deep down in my heart, I still love you.
That's how I feel about Eli. Anyway, it's really tough. First, I'd like to say Eli, and I said this on Twitter earlier, Eli has been the quarterback for the Giants since I have given a shit about football. Obviously there are other quarterbacks. I've been alive longer than that, but pre-2004, I didn't give a shit about football. So really, I've only known Eli Manning as the quarterback for my favorite team. I know a lot of people say he's not elite or the greatest quarterback, but he did win 2 very memorable Super Bowls. And so I thank him for that. And honestly, if I live up to my word from the last Super Bowl, I'm supposed to name one of my children, either Eli or Ella, or the sports gods may spite me forever. Because I said, please, sports gods, if the Giants win this game, I will name my firstborn either Eli or Ella.
Ella, E-L-A. So
far, my fiance has vetoed it. We'll see what goes on there. But there's some hope, and I say that because, and it was Justin Bales who kind of turned me on to this, or that sounds weird, but he did turn me on to it, I guess.
That's wow. Super helpful.
Yeah. So Geno, can't even believe I'm talking about Geno Smith. Geno, let's try to make this sound positive. Geno, in the past 5 games that he's attempted at least 20 passes, has had a total of 1,266 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, has had some rushing yards in there as well, I know. A quarterback rating for people who care about that stuff, 105, and a completion percentage of about 65%. So
it's not bad.
When he's been given quote-unquote starter reps, he's been okay, or even slightly better than okay. The thing is, those stats that I just gave you are all from 2014 and 15. He hasn't attempted more than 20 passes in a game in at least 2 seasons. I don't get why the Giants went to him instead of Davis Webb. Davis Webb should be starting right now because at the very least, you want to see who or what you have in Davis Webb before you have to spend a high round pick on a quarterback, which I think that at this point they pretty much have to do anyway. In regards to Engram for this season, the one thing I could say is that a guy like Geno probably will like having a safety net like Engram. But the problem is that the Giants have no other receivers whatsoever unless Sterling Shepard is finally healthy, which means defenses are just doubling up on Engram and he can't do much about it. Geno has already said that he liked practicing with Travis Rudolph. So if you're looking for a really deep guy to add to your roster in best balls, it might not be the worst case to try to take a flyer on him. But something I wanted to say about Engram, because I know people are getting concerned about his past 2 games. So everybody knows I love to go back to 1920. 1920, great time, Great Depression's going on.
Whoa, that was the Roaring 20s.
Depression 1929.
Let's be real for a second.
1929, right?
Okay, yeah, it did.
Yeah, sorry. The Roaring 20s, great time. Jazz is just becoming a thing, but people are afraid of it.
Jazz hands.
I was doing
anyway.
well.
Since 1920, rookie tight ends to have at least 450 yards and 5 touchdowns in their rookie season, there's only been 17 of those, and Evan Engram is one of them. So other recent examples are Hunter Henry, Rob Gronkowski, and Tim Wright. Now, Tim Wright doesn't really inspire much confidence if that's who he ends up being. But the other 2, I know people are still pretty high on Hunter Henry, even though he's inconsistent. And of course, if Engram was to become Gronk or anything Gronk adjacent, fantasy players would be pissing themselves over that.
Mike, maybe so. Bobby puts throw some stats out here in terms of Geno. He's not too bad, right? Like maybe some people who own him in two quarterback fantasy leagues, if they have any stock in him, I think I did, and I dropped him like 3 weeks ago. Maybe they have a chance. Like, what are your thoughts? Any upside there in owning him long term?
I don't think so, but I also don't know who the Giants play in the next few weeks either. But I own Geno Smith. I'm only playing him in a desperation play, and it would have to be a 2 quarterback or super flex league. I would probably rank him definitely like 26 or lower going forward, just because, like Bobby said, the guy hasn't really attempted a pass in the NFL in like 2 years. Maybe he knew, a couple days ago.
Passes, just to clarify, just not more than 20.
Right. But has he attempted a pass in the last year? I don't think he played last year, did he?
He did.
Oh, shows what I know. Okay. Anyway,
so I feel like when I talk to him all the time.
Yeah. I don't. The rushing ability is kind of nice. If anything, that's what'll save him. The Giants' receiving corps is depleted. There's Engram and maybe Shepard, and nobody else, and so people can just double team whoever they seem fit. So he might be able to scramble and get you 35 to 50 yards on the ground. But I think if you think he's going to get over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns and no picks, you're dreaming. You're drinking more Old Millie than I am right now.
Give me something I can't dream about when it comes to Evan Ingram's fantasy upside for the rest of the year, Bobby.
What am I giving you?
So I don't want to dream. I want realistic numbers, fantasy upside for Evan Ingram rest of the year. Final
realistic numbers? That's really tough. So the thing is, I can almost imagine a weird scenario where Geno Smith plays incredibly well. And I know everybody's going to be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? But I think just because all Giants fans, myself included, feel incredibly disheartened by this, it's going to be like that weird year where, for example, Case Keenum is a relevant quarterback and playing well. Maybe Geno goes full Case Keenum and surprises us. Probably not. But I still think Engram has at least 3 touchdowns in him for the rest of the season. And I think that he'll come close to a 800-plus yard season.
It's good numbers for him. I'll tell you, he's had a few 800-yard-plus seasons, at least one.
Or actually, you know what? Sorry, only 4 games. Let's cut that down to 700 yards, 650. I completely forgot how many games there were left for a second.
I'm like 200 yards a game.
Shows you what a dynasty expert I am. And while I'm on the subject, do not like that word. Analyst is better. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
I mean, obviously that was letting you have the floor at this point, but I'll tell you who's had at least one 700-yard season times 2. That's Josh Gordon. The man, the myth, the legend is returning. He is back on the Cleveland Browns. From what I understand, too, he has got some things to say. There's a recent Sports Illustrated article that comes out in which he does not come across as being a very lighthearted young man. To say that he was definitely playing hard as a football player, and he was a gangster as going hard as a gangster as well. But that being said, Anthony Lima from Cleveland has a tweet saying that he works at 923 The Fan in Cleveland. Josh Gordon clocked at a 4.340 this week. Actually, excuse me, last week with the Cleveland Browns at practice. He'll be playing this week. Gordon, that's exciting, right? Like, what are we supposed to expect from him?
I don't expect anything. The guy hasn't played in the league since 2014. And even then, I think he only played 4 or 5 games. So it's been since 2013 since he played, basically a full season. Back then, he was a pretty decent receiver. In 2012, he had 50 grabs on 95 targets for 805 yards, 5 touchdowns. In 2013, this was his big coming out party. He had 87 grabs on 159 attempts for 1,646 yards and 9 touchdowns. And that's what really, really put him on the map and had people going apeshit over him.
On the Cleveland Browns. Let's remind ourselves. On the Cleveland Browns, he did that.
And that's in the 2013 season. That's with Jason Campbell and Brandon Weeden as his quarterbacks.
Yep.
And so then in 2014, I think he played 4 or 5 games, and he had 24 grabs for 47 yards, 24 grabs on 47 attempts for 303 yards and no touchdowns. So he regressed a little bit. His catch rate has always been fairly 50-50. From 2012 to 2014.
Thrown a lot of 50-50 balls, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, when Jason Campbell's throwing you a ball or Brandon Weeden's throwing it deep to you, I imagine I'm going to catch it maybe 1 out of 7 times.
True. So, he had catch rates of 52, 54, and 51%. That's something that I really look at to evaluate a guy. I mean, obviously, quarterback play plays into that a little bit, but I want guys who are catching probably at least 70% of their targets. That said, his quarterbacks have been shit. In 2012, it was Weeden. 13 was Campbell and Weeden. In 14, it was Hoyer and maybe Johnny Football for a game or 2. I know Johnny Football played some of that season, but I'm not sure if those were the same games that Gordon was in as well. The interesting thing is, so he would just really be coming into his prime, per se, if he was in the league and not, hanging out with Coolio, living that gangster's paradise life. Because he's only 26 years old right now. The reason why I don't think we'll see anything from him this year is, so there's 4 games left in the fantasy season. His 4 matchups are at the Chargers, which their secondary is locked down. Week 14, if I was ever going to start him, it would be week 14 at home against Green Bay. Week 15, I'm not starting him against the Baltimore Ravens, who that secondary just eats shit up for breakfast. And then week 16, do you really want to put your fantasy championship in Josh Gordon's hands? He's at Chicago. Chicago's kind of a mid-pack against the pass, but yeah, I don't see anything going in for him for this year, really. And next year, maybe, but this year, I don't want any part of him at all.
Bob, you got to be liking the fact that he's kind of a younger-ish quarterback. Let's say I'm not going to say quarterback. Wide receiver, but he's definitely playing with a young quarterback in Pfizer.
Throwback to our first episode.
Yeah. So, is there any type of rhythm they can establish there? Like that's got to look good long term, right?
So, first, I'd like to start by saying there's a documentary on Josh Gordon. And it might even be in that article you're talking about, where it details all his different drug use and whatever. So,
yeah, I think it is in there. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in his life, but from my understanding, he's clean and trying to be clean now. So just the fact that he's even on the football field to me is a win, because I know, not from personal experience, but from people I know, how hard it can be to kick that stuff when you get addicted to it. So I applaud Josh Gordon for even making it back to the field. And I don't have incredibly high expectations for what he'll do because, Mike said, yeah, he's been out of the game for 2 years or a few years. But some positives is he's still young. He's on the Browns, who have trash for wide receivers outside of Corey Coleman. And Corey Coleman himself has been hurt. And they do have to throw a ton, so he's going to get his opportunities to get back into the flow of things. And the Browns are going to do everything they can to see whether they can get anything out of Josh Gordon, because they didn't wait the 2+ years and not release him or trade him to other teams who might have piped up that they wanted him, not to see what they have. So, I've heard people saying Josh Gordon isn't even worth a bench spot in Dynasty. I think that's totally wrong, especially when, like, at the end of your rosters, I can't think of a really horrendous name off the top of my head, but there are really just trash players at the end of 26-man rosters. That
I had Ryan Matthews on my bench for most this year.
Who do you have?
I don't anymore, but I had Ryan Matthews on my bench for most of this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's not even the worst player I could think of, but Ryan Matthews is someone that I rather have Josh Gordon than Ryan Matthews, for example, because there's always that off chance that for a while there, now we talk about Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans as being some of the top guys in the league, especially for fantasy purposes. For a while there, it was pretty much Josh Gordon, and that was it. So
this is like 2 or 3 years ago. I also think that there's some value here that we can learn from Josh Gordon. He was making about 10 G's a month dealing weed when he was in college, right? So at some point, his DFS value, if you guys want to listen to DFS or anything like that, it's got to like work into that favor where you start him for a cheap price on a Sunday. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Mike, last words on Josh Gordon, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I'd keep him on my bench in a dynasty league for a 26 roster spot, but I don't expect anything from this year outside of maybe Week 14 at Green Bay. The other matchups I don't like. I'm not trusting him in Week 16 for my fantasy championship. So if I do have Josh Gordon, it would be looking for 2018 and beyond. I'm not going to look to acquire him at all unless we really, really see something, which I don't think we will. I just think it's been too long and the demons are going to come back, but I have zero faith in him.
Fair enough. I'll tell you what, I have him. I held on to him mainly because my team is complete dog shit, as you guys know. But now I'm starting to make maybe looking towards 2018, 2019. I'll tell you what, who's had a couple of good games, though, especially this last game on Thanksgiving night. Samaje Perine. And I think it's funny and ironic that I actually pronounced his name correctly because it looks like – what does it look like? Perine? Perine? It looks like that, but it's actually P.
Also, one quick thing I wanted to say. I know we were giving Mike the last words on Josh Gordon, but this thought just crossed my mind, and I had to say it while I was thinking of it. So Tim Hightower, who Mike should be familiar with because he's a Saint, I think he's out of the league, 1 or 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, 2 years.
And Engram went down, and he was very, very productive. So I'm not saying, that's one case, but I'm saying we have seen even Marshawn Lynch this year has been decent. So we have seen examples of people being out of football and coming back and still producing. That's why I'm not necessarily willing to close the book entirely on Gordon.
Right. The only thing I'll say about Hightower is, being productive on the Saints is a lot easier than being productive on the Browns.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Especially on offense.
Right.
What we're understanding this year on defense, too.
You're also based in the city in Cleveland, which we all know how we feel about that from episode 1.
Yeah, this is a beautiful city, guys. We got to move on to our next. We got to move on to our next topic. Last one. Well, second to last one. Of course, we go to the afterburns. We got Samaje Perine right here. Came out with a nice game against the New York Giants. Bobby, sorry. RB2 rest of the season. Is it possible that he is, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. Just on the fact that he's going to get the sheer volume. So since he's basically taken over as the lead back 2 weeks ago when Chris Thompson went down against the Saints, in the game against the Saints, Perine rushed 23 times for 117 yards in Van Pater. And then last week, he rushed 24 times for 100 yards. He didn't get the touchdown, but he did have 3 catches out of 4 targets for 30 yards. So I don't think Perine's skill set is great by any means, but I think that he's because Washington has no other warm bodies back there, that Perine is just going to get the sheer volume, and he's going to get the ball 22 to 25 to, we'll say between catches 22 and 27 times a game. And even if he only averages, 4 yards, 3.5, 4 yards, you're still looking at a 100-yard day and maybe a touchdown. So that's enough to definitely keep him in the running back 2 ranking for me for the rest of the year anyway.
Bobby, you agree right there? You think he's going to be a good RB2?
Sure. I mean, he's going to be the lead back pretty much by default at this point. And that offense is fairly good behind Kirk Cousins, although it's had its ups and downs. I'm more interested, since generally I think about things in terms of dynasty, about his long-term value. And I don't know that he necessarily holds long-term value. I know he's had these 2 good games, but people I really trust to do player evaluation, I'm going to too many of them to list really off the top of my head, had mentioned that they really didn't think he was going to be anything. I'm always willing to change my opinion, but 2 games is a little too soon for me to change my opinion, since I really do take the opinion of these guys I've been listening to very highly. So it's interesting. If your trade deadline's still open, if you're not contending, I would definitely be looking to sell him. I know, for example, in the league we all play together, Andrew has him. Andrew was high on him going into the draft. Andrew is, I believe his handle is just at Andrew Burke. Correct me if I'm wrong, if either of you know.
I think it might be Coach Burke.
Yeah, Coach Burke. And he does the Fantasy 40 with a few of the guys from Dynasty Football Factory. I believe it's John DeBerry, and I can't recall who else is on that cast. But yeah, Andrew's very high on Perine, and I'm just not there with him. And Andrew's team is definitely rebuilding. So if I were him, I'd be looking to sell based off these 2 games. But I know he's not. And also we're past our trade deadline in that league anyway.
So here's a question, though. Since you mentioned, if you had Perine, you should be looking to sell him. Andrew's obviously in rebuilding mode. Perine's a youngish running back, 22 years old. But since Mark had Chris Thompson, wouldn't it have made sense for Mark to make a play to Andrew? Maybe offer him a 2nd-round pick for Perine at the deadline, since he did lose one of his lead backs?
I don't know if that would have been enough to convince Andrew, because Andrew's been pretty high on the guy. But yeah,
okay, so
it probably would have made sense. Especially because honestly, he could be something. Just I personally, especially when I'm rebuilding, don't believe in holding on to running backs to have value of any sort. I think when you're ready to defend, you can draft or trade for running backs. You don't necessarily need to hold them through your rebuild.
Oh, yeah, and I agree. That's why I'm kind of shocked that Andrew didn't try to flip him to Mark, or Mark at least make an offer. Maybe they didn't. We don't know. But there's Mark's obligatory shout-out for the pod for the week.
Yeah, there you go, Mark. You're mentioned.
At Walt Sanity, I think we are contractually obligated to actually make that announcement. Guys, did you know that Samaje Perine is actually University of Oklahoma's leading all-time rusher?
I did not know that. Wow.
I didn't, but I also don't pay attention to college football. I trust other people to tell me about college football.
I think I know more college football.
You know more about college football than I do, that's for sure.
I don't know.
And
Confident
probably
or not,
know more
that you don't know
than I do.
I mean,
what was that, Mike?
Bobby probably knows more about college football than I do, too.
Well, I guess I'm the college football guru in this little circle, this little 3-way that we're having, huh?
I read about college football. I don't watch. It's kind of hard to watch college football when your college teams were D3 and pretty much all your sports teams were terrible. So I don't really have a rooting interest, which makes it hard for me to get into.
You might just make my afterburn for that comment.
What?
And I live in Canada, so we don't really have a great college football program per se. Anyway.
What about the CFL? Do you pay attention to the CFL at all?
No. I tried to get into CFL because I'm a degenerate gambler. And a few years ago, a buddy who I used to work with asked me if I wanted to join a CFL fantasy pool. And so naturally, I was all over that shit. And I knew about 2 people in the pool, like players-wise. I was like, this is fucking awful. I can't handle this shit. And I went to an Argos game, and I just got really drunk off of overpriced beers and called it a day.
Man, overpriced
My
beers?
$12
That's awesome.
$12 beers. You got to love paying that.
That's terrible. Oh, man. All right, guys.
$12
We're running low on time, so I think what we have to do next are afterburns of the week. Who's got one? Mike, you got one?
I actually got two.
Oh, shit. Two. All right. Do your first one. We'll go, and then we'll do your last one.
Okay, so my first afterburn of the week, I'm going back to the New Orleans Saints and fucking Michael Humanui. I can't even.
Is that the defensive back that just stopped?
No, that was fucking awful though as well. I threw my hat across my living room when that happened. So no, this is the third string tight end, number 84. So it's late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter. You know, the Saints are driving. I'm realizing they're probably going to lose the game to the Rams. So at this time, I'm keeping a close eye on my fantasy team. I'm like, fuck, I really need some Drew Brees and Mark Ingram points. Brees throws a screen to Ingram. Ingram scampers in from like the 4-yard line. I'm like, sweet. There's fucking 11 points for me. That'll help a lot. Flag in the end zone. They call holding on this asshat when he was nowhere even fucking near the play. And instead of just giving the D lineman a little fake like he was going to hold him, no, just fucking straight on, hands in the armpits, flag, touchdown gets called back. So that's minus 11 points for the Pokai Heroes, and I end up losing by 6.
You lost by 6, right?
Yeah, or 4.5. 4.5, sorry, not even 6.
I needed those points too for Drew Brees, so I'm with you there.
Bob, you got a burn?
I got 2 also, actually.
Oh, shit, man. I only got 1.
So I'll start with one that I know is going to make Sam mad. So Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, you had a great game. And then for whatever reason, with about 17 seconds left in the game, when you should have just ran the ball up the field.
There was 38 seconds left.
Regardless, when you should have just ran the ball up the field, you decided to step out of bounds and give the Steelers a chance. You never give Big Ben a chance with even 2 seconds left. Just take the game to overtime at that point. That was the biggest bonehead move, and if he's not benched whenever their other running backs get healthy, I will be shocked.
You didn't make me mad at all. You're absolutely 100% right.
I also wanted that game to go to overtime because I had Lev Bell, and I could have used 4.5 points.
It wasn't even about the fantasy points for me. It was just I was enjoying watching the game, and then Jamal Williams made one of the biggest boneheaded moves to cost the Packers any chance at winning.
Speaking of the Steelers, I got myself a burn, and it is to every fucking Steelers fan out there that wanted Mike Tomlin fired because they didn't win enough by the Packers. I'm sick of you motherfuckers out there wanting Mike Tomlin fired, all right? He is second right now in total win percentage of the NFL. He's been coaching for 11 fucking seasons. He's won a championship. He went to his second Super Bowl. Shut the fuck up. They're not playing the goddamn Helen Keller School of the Deaf and Blind, okay? They're playing professional athletes that get paid just like everybody else. I don't want to fucking hear any more Steelers fans about Mike Tomlin being a terrible quarterback. Know your fucking role, Jabronis, and shut the fuck up.
Wow. You want to follow that, or should I?
I'll follow it. My second afterburn of the week is I'm going to burn myself.
Ooh.
So I mentioned that I lost my matchup by 4.5 points. And it was Thanksgiving morning. Well, Thanksgiving morning in the U.S. The trade deadline was approaching. I made some moves that maybe I regret now, but that's irrelevant. And so I sat there and I thought, fuck, do I start Dak today against the Redskins, or do I start McCowan against the Panthers on Sunday? And I really, really, really wanted to start McCowan, but I thought, the Panthers are pretty fucking good. Dak should be able to give me at least 10, 12 points. That's probably manageable. I can probably win. Nope. Dak puts up, I think, 5, maybe 6 points, and McCowan had like 25, or maybe not that many, but 20-ish. So I'm burning myself for costing myself a matchup.
Yeah, man, you got to get burned for that one. You've seen Dak. He looks like shit without Zeke.
And now I have a fucking do-or-die matchup this week for the top spot with Ali and his fucking old geriatric team. if they can realize that they've got a game this week. So it's between me and Ali for the top spot in our league.
Yeah, I don't even know who to cheer for. I don't really give a shit.
Well, I think you're probably cheering for Ali because I think you own my pick.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be like a pick that's going to be anywhere near like the top 5.
No, it's going to be 11.
I still want to read it for it to be higher.
True. Fair enough.
I
Okay.
also realized I have 2 more, actually. So I have 3 burns this week.
On burning
All right.
fire right now.
So I'm going to start in order of what makes me, and I did this. I'm starting in order of what makes me least angry to most angry.
Oh, shit.
So number 2, tiebreakers in fantasy scoring should be points scored, or at the very least, the 6th seed should be based on whoever's left of the people that didn't make it 1 through 5 has the most points scored. Head-to-head's great. It's fun. You get to talk a bunch of trash. Divisional record, fine, whatever. But at the very least, you need to recognize the fact that someone could be consistently scoring points scored all season, but facing people during their best weeks, and for them to not make the playoffs would be absolute horseshit, and they would protest and play the rest of the league under protest for the rest of forever. And I'm not talking about myself right now, but I'm definitely fucking talking about myself. If this happens, I will play under protest.
Who are you burning right now?
I'm burning Zach. He's the commissioner of that league.
You mean Jon Snow?
Yeah, Jon Snow. By the way, Zach, random aside, Zach posted a picture of himself today on Instagram where he modeled as Jon Snow. He's looking pretty good. I'm not going to give out his Instagram handle just in case he doesn't want me to, but it's definitely worth checking out if you already follow him. All right, now the one that makes me the most fucking mad. Giants organization, the entire fucking organization, you are getting burned. I guess we're sharing the picture. Before I go into my rant, very quickly, if you're watching the YouTube video, there is Zach as Jon Snow. But anyway, back to the motherfucking Giants. So you have a 2-time Super Bowl champion quarterback. You have a coach who has coached his team to one of the worst seasons in Giants history and is so inept that he keeps saying things like, "What did you tell them at halftime?" Somehow Eli loses his job before that guy loses his fucking job. Are you fucking kidding me? Secondly, if you listen to Eli talk, John Mara didn't even talk to Eli. The owner of the team did not talk to the quarterback who gave them 11 years, had nothing but respectful things to say today, and yet he didn't give him the time of day. I was talking about this earlier on Twitter. It's like Old Yeller. You don't go, somebody else take out my old dog out back and shoot it for me. You shoot that fucking dog, and you look him in the eye while you do it. You're about to end this guy's career or bring him to tears. You man up, you look him in the eye, and you tell him, listen, you've been great for us. It doesn't make sense from a football perspective for you to play for us anymore. We're moving on, and you also do him the kindness to release him so if he wants to keep playing, he can play for another team. And also, listen, I fucking hate Ben McAdoo. I will never respect him. However, I do think he was used as a scapegoat for this. They went, well, we're going to fire him anyway, so might as well make him bench our quarterback. Grow some fucking balls, Giants organization, and do things yourself. I'm not just saying John Mara. This goes all the way up. You need to fire Reese, fire McAdoo, and take a good hard look at yourself because it's been fucking embarrassing to be a fan this year, and really it's making me angry.
We got a couple more burns that we have to share from some listeners. Not that I want to continue this because I love hearing you completely go ratchet here. One coming from, actually, it's going to be from Christian, who came in last week. He wants to burn Michael Crabtree's necklace because obviously it started the entire suspension between the two. We got another one here. This is somebody who used to listen to my podcast when I was doing the show with Vegas for we did DFS stuff with LB. It's at True Virgo Child. Big Giants fan he is. He says, he's got a rant to go on. He's on your side, Bobby. Now, I understand they want to look at the QB of the future, but Geno fucking Smith, they definitely hit the reset button on this regime. Trevorgo Child, Albie, my man Bobby's he feels your pain, my friend, and we apologize that you had to go through this. So hopefully you got take a breather. You got some kind of recourse from what Bobby just kind of said, was going through his entire emotions over the last year. Over the last year or so. Yeah.
No, this season, honestly, I have never been embarrassed to be a fan of any team, and I've been through some rough seasons with some teams. Some of the Rangers really horrific seasons. Some years where the Yankees have not been good, although I've generally been blessed. Some years where the Giants have not been good, but this has been the most incompetently I've ever seen any team run. And I live in New York, where I've had to watch Knicks basketball. That's right, Knicks basketball with Carmelo in it was incompetent as fuck.
You're not a basketball fan.
I watched it. I tried to get into it.
I'm a basketball fan.
I still watched it because my dad likes basketball, and he went, watch this shit. And I went, this team sucks, and they don't know how to organize anything.
Speaking of shitty teams, I sat through the 119-loss 2003 Detroit Tigers. That was fucking painful.
Yeah, but you guys had like Verlander coming
No,
up.
we didn't then.
You had him coming up, though.
No, we hadn't even drafted him at that point. We got Verlander because of that draft.
Who's the guy that like lost 20 games and he did all right when you guys went to the? He lost
Mike
20
Moroff.
Yeah.
All I will say,
we got Verlander because of the 119-loss season, because the fucking Padres drafted Matt fucking Bush instead.
Smart Padres.
Thanks, Sandy.
if you're not Odell Beckham, you're not Evan Engram, you're not Sterling Shepard, you can get the fuck off the team.
And with that, we have our final parting shot of the Afterburners episode. This was fun. I feel like we ranted a lot right here, which is what the people, I guess, want to hear. I don't know. We're forcing down the throats anyways. Mike, give us your parting shots. Give us your final tags and your final handle. And then, Bobby, you're up next. And then we're going to say goodnight.
Hopefully the Saints bounce back against the Panthers this week. Big divisional game I'll be watching. You can find me on Twitter at Mike Jarvis, and over to you, Bobby.
You can find me at Wrecked Fantasy. I'll be the one posting a bunch of crying memes while I have to watch Geno Smith on Sunday.
And obviously, guys, you can find me at The Needy One. This is the at Afterburners Pod on Twitter. Find us on Instagram at @the_Afterburners. Afterburners Pod on YouTube as well. You can watch this all on video and see my beautiful mustache. Email us, theafterburnerspod@gmail.com, if you want us to have hit any topics or add any burns yourself. Finally, the most important part, find us on iTunes. The link is in our Twitter profile. It's in our Instagram profile. Subscribe. Write a steamy review. We want you to steam all over this show. That's the way it is. Thank you so much for listening. We want to thank Christian again. Amazing show last week. LB, Trevorgo Child, amazing that you're still listening to us. Everyone over at DLF Fan Football, thank you so much for letting Bobby hang out with us. That's all I got, guys. Thanks so much.
Until next time, keep it classy, Fantasy Twitter, and don't worry, Giants fans. We'll get through this.